And I mean a rough hour.
I just hope I don't forget the words to,
I just can't
else go ahead, believe it. I hope I don't forget the words.
It was meant to be another unforgettable Elvis Presley show. The audience cheered, the band played, and the king shined. Then, without warning, 4 men stormed the stage. Gasps filled the air. No one could have guessed how Elvis would face the danger until he did something that stunned the world. Join us as we find out what happened next. Elvis Presley's battle behind the bright lights. In February 1973, Las Vegas was filled with excitement and magic as the entertainment capital of the world. The famous neon lights illuminated the night sky, creating a mesmerizing glow over the streets. The city was alive with energy at every turn, ready to provide an unforgettable show for visitors. Just a month before, Elvis Presley had captured the world with his Aloha from Hawaii special. It wasn't your average concert, but a revolutionary live broadcast that reached millions of viewers worldwide. At that time, Elvis was not only a rock and roll icon in America, but a global superstar. After his historic success, Elvis came back to Las Vegas to maintain his title as the King of Rock and Roll. He had a new set of shows lined up, sparking a lot of excitement. Fans from all over the globe traveled to see Elvis perform live. There was a sense of anticipation in the air. Fans eagerly whispered to each other, hopeful to witness a performance that would go down in history. Away from the bright lights and noisy crowds, there was a less glamorous side to the story. Behind the scenes, Elvis was struggling with a difficult battle. His career demands were overwhelming and taking a toll on him. Every performance mandated all of his energy, but his body was starting to rebel. He was suffering from severe throat problems, and there were rumors that the medication he was taking was making things worse. The dry and harsh air in Las Vegas was tough, especially for someone whose voice was his greatest talent. Singing every song became difficult, especially hitting high notes. Despite feeling the strain, Elvis did not give up easily. His fans had traveled a long way and expected the same legendary performance from him. He was not only worried about his health, but also dealing with emotional turmoil from his recent divorce from Priscilla. The pain from their breakup weighed heavily on his heart. The end of their marriage marked a difficult period in his life. While the public saw him as Elvis the performer, he was struggling with feelings of loss and loneliness. The spotlight that once made him happy now felt too harsh on his personal struggles. However, the performance had to continue. Elvis always managed to go on. Every evening he would walk onto the stage wearing his famous jumpsuits, looking out at his devoted fans. The sound of applause filled the venue, providing a temporary escape from his suffering and fatigue. Although his voice may have been tired, his determination never wavered. Each action and every song was a fulfillment of his commitment to himself, his fans, and the lasting impression he had created. During Elvis's performances in Vegas, there was a special charm about the way he presented himself. Even when he was in pain and feeling sad, he never wavered in his commitment. He put his all into each show as if it could be his final one. The audience could sense this as well. They did not just see a famous singer, they saw a person pouring his heart into every performance. The atmosphere in the concert halls was filled with excitement. Fans were taking pictures with flash cameras to remember the moment. The band followed Elvis's lead with great accuracy as he performed on stage. Sometimes Elvis's voice had a slight crack, but instead of detracting from the performance, it made it seem more authentic. The audience could feel the emotion in his singing, which made them cheer even more. After each performance, when the audience was gone and the applause faded, Elvis would go backstage. In these moments of solitude, he would feel the exhaustion and emotional toll of his personal life. However, he also felt a sense of pride in overcoming the difficulties and still putting on a great show. The February nights in Las Vegas were not just concerts. They were a display of Elvis's ability to bounce back. While the neon lights outside represented the city, it was Elvis who brought light into the venue. His drive was unwavering, and it was this inner strength behind all the glitz that made him unforgettable. In February 1973, the story of Elvis was a mix of success and challenges. While the world witnessed his fame and talent, there was also a man dealing with personal pain But striving to honor his commitment to music and his fans, lost people in Las Vegas will always remember those nights not just for the music, but also for the emotion and passion that went into them. Despite quietly facing his challenges, Elvis Presley will forever be remembered as the king. The night Elvis faced the unsettling calm. The evening had the potential to be something extraordinary. The hall was brightly lit and the atmosphere felt exciting. Everyone had been eagerly anticipating this moment. Elvis Presley was about to perform. The crowd was buzzing with excitement, their faces filled with happiness and anticipation. It was a night that guaranteed memories that would be remembered for a long time. As the music started playing and the show got underway, the atmosphere was buzzing with excitement. Every sound, every flash of light, every performance on stage captivated the audience. However, despite the lively energy, something unusual was beginning to unfold. Near the front of the stage, a group of 5 friends, 4 men and 1 woman, sat together, capturing the attention of those around them. Right from the start, they exuded a different vibe that stood out from the rest of the cheerful crowd. Originally, their behavior was just a minor disturbance. Occasionally, you could hear the sound of beer bottles clinking softly, along with the quiet chatter of voices that gradually increased in volume over time. It did not appear significant, but it managed to attract a few glances from onlookers. The way they presented themselves suggested they had a different purpose for being there compared to others. Suddenly, their actions shifted unexpectedly. Beer bottles that were empty started moving on the stage. The bottles made a loud noise as they hit the floor, spinning and rattling in the bright lights. Some even reached the feet of Jackie Kahane, the comedian who started the show. His performance was interrupted briefly by the noise. The audience became uneasy, causing people to move in their seats and look back and forth between the stage and the group. Despite the disruption, the night continued. Jackie tried hard to keep the show going, but the group's presence lingered in the room like a persistent shadow. And then, a moment arrived that transformed the unusual situation into something truly unsettling. When Elvis had just started performing 3 songs, a woman from the audience got up unexpectedly. She moved slowly and purposefully, as if being guided by an invisible force. Ignoring everyone else in the room, she climbed onto the table in front of her seat. The audience immediately turned their focus towards her. She did not hurry or trip. Instead, she walked with an unusual calmness, with steady steps and eyes fixed straight ahead. There was calmness instead of excitement. With no fans screaming or reaching out in joy, she seemed to be walking in a dreamlike state, with controlled body language that felt almost fake. The crowd watched silently, their cheers turning into quiet anticipation. Every step she took towards the stage appeared to make the air around her slow down. She approached Elvis without saying anything. Instead of grabbing his hands or requesting anything, she raised her arms and carefully took the scarf off his neck. She then placed it around her shoulders in a calm and intentional manner, as if she had always intended to do so. Her expression did not reveal any excitement or nervousness, but rather a mysterious composure that was hard to interpret. She then turned around without glancing back at him and began to walk back in the direction she had come from. The onlookers watched her closely throughout the entire encounter. The atmosphere was not one that prompted laughter or applause. It was too strange and subdued. Upon reaching her table, she decided to give the scarf to the man who appeared to be the leader of their group, rather than keeping it for herself. He accepted it with a slow, almost possessive gesture, and both of them then sat down as if nothing unusual had just occurred. After that, the atmosphere in the room changed. The sense of enchantment that was present at the beginning of the evening remained, but it was now accompanied by a feeling of unease. The guests looked at each other, uncertain about what had just happened. Elvis, known for his professionalism, carried on without stopping, but it was evident to a lot of people that the mood of the night had altered. Before, there had been instances where fans energetically rushed the stage in excitement and love. However, this time was different. It was methodical, premeditated, and surprisingly quiet. It lacked the disorder of a spontaneous act and instead carried a deliberate purpose. The group remained quiet, yet their presence was unmistakable to the audience. The leader held onto the scarf tightly, keeping his eyes on the stage. The woman, who had stopped moving and talking, had left a lasting impression on everyone. It was more about the way she did things rather than just the actions themselves. Her calm demeanor, lack of emotion, and quietness made it seem like a warning. The sound of bottles clinking, the glass rolling on stage, and now her claiming something that belonged to Elvis, all indicated that something was brewing. The rest of the audience tried to relax and enjoy the show, but the feeling of unease from earlier lingered. Elvis turned fighter. The atmosphere in the concert hall was filled with excitement as every seat was taken, and the crowd was eagerly anticipating the show. The stage was illuminated with warm lights and the music filled the room. Elvis Presley, also known as the King of Rock and Roll, was standing in the center, prepared to give his fans the performance they had been eagerly anticipating. He started singing one of his favorite songs, Suspicious Minds. The crowd was captivated by the familiar tune, singing and swaying along to the magic of his voice. Each note was brimming with Elvis's unique passion and charm. The audience felt energized, their hearts beating in sync with the music. As the music played, a sinister presence started to emerge. There was a group in the crowd who had been agitated all evening. They whispered to each other, fidgeted, and looked suspiciously at the stage. Despite the attention being on Elvis, most people overlooked them. Trouble was slowly building up behind the glitz of the show. Elvis confidently danced on stage, incorporating his signature karate-inspired moves. He moved with precision, turning and striking poses that delighted the crowd. The audience cheered as his energetic performance captivated them. His attention was solely on the music until something caught his eye and distracted him. Two men from the rowdy group stood up and walked towards the stage with determination. They had a clear sense of purpose and walked quickly. Although their exact intentions were unclear at first, the tense atmosphere indicated something was about to happen. The crowd saw them and gasped together in shock. Many people in the hall seemed to stop breathing suddenly. Elvis kept singing, but he became more aware of his surroundings. The men were getting near, too near for comfort. Then suddenly Elvis saw them clearly. His instincts took over before his mind could process what was happening. His many years of karate practice became automatic, with every move ingrained in his muscle memory. He quickly turned to the first man and landed a powerful blow, knocking him off the stage. The audience was surprised and in awe, not just fearful. They had expected to see the king sing, but instead he was fiercely defending himself like a warrior. It seemed like they were witnessing two different aspects of him simultaneously, the performer and the combatant. However, there was still a threat. The other man was still standing, and it was clear that he had malicious intentions. Without wasting any time, Elvis's devoted bodyguards, Jerry Schilling, Sonny West, and Red West, quickly sprang into action. They had been keeping a close eye, prepared to intervene at any moment. Suddenly, they rushed onto the stage, swiftly closing the distance with determination. They arrived in time to stop the attacker by forcefully tackling him. Despite his struggles, he couldn't break free from their hold. Elvis watched from a distance as his bodyguards subdued the attacker. The rest of the group tried to intervene, but the security team was prepared for them as well. They responded to each threat with the same level of strength and composure. The calm concert quickly turned into a chaotic scene, with bodyguards rushing around, attackers being subdued, and the crowd feeling a mix of fear and amazement. The music became drowned out by the sound of racing hearts and heightened adrenaline. Order quickly started to be restored. The bodyguards guided the attackers away with a strong hold, not allowing any resistance. The men were removed from the stage and taken out of view, finally eliminating the danger. The incident ended as suddenly as it began. The stage lights were still bright, and Elvis appeared calm despite the change in atmosphere. The audience witnessed something unforgettable, not only his legendary voice and charm, but also his strength and ability to protect himself and others. Murmurs spread among the crowd. Individuals shared surprised and excited glances as they tried to make sense of what they had just seen. Some were stunned, while others were delighted. Everyone realized they had experienced a memorable moment. Elvis did not just sing Suspicious Minds that night. He experienced a moment of true suspense. The famous rock and roll singer faced a threat directly and proved that he was more than just an entertainer. He demonstrated he was a fighter, willing to defend himself even while performing. The star stood his ground. Moments ago, the air in the crowded venue was buzzing with excitement. Everyone had gathered for a memorable evening, excited to witness the king of rock and roll in all his glory. However, in an instant, the music stopped, and chaos erupted as a sudden and unexpected attack interrupted the performance. In the beginning, everyone was quiet and shocked. The silence was so intense that it felt like time had paused. Then, chaos erupted with gasps, shouts, whispers, and a restless commotion as people tried to make sense of what had occurred. The audience, anticipating a night of incredible music, were now caught up in a moment they would always remember. On the stage, the king's bodyguards acted fast and decisively to quickly subdue the attackers. They were skilled and efficient in their movements. After removing the threat, the audience was left shocked and concerned. They wondered if Elvis had been injured. Next, the audience started clapping. Initially, it started slowly and uncertainly, but then it got louder. The applause moved through the crowd like a wave, becoming a loud show of support. They weren't just applauding for the music anymore, they were applauding for the man who had confronted a danger in front of them and stayed strong. At that time, Elvis wasn't just a singer. He was their hero. In the midst of confusion, Elvis paused and composed himself while looking out at the audience with a mix of anger and determination, making an unspoken promise of loyalty to his fans. The crowd hushed, eager to hear his words. When he eventually spoke, his voice was calm, but there was a sharpness that made his words impactful. The crowd paid close attention, leaning in to hear. He spoke confidently with no doubt in his voice. His words were heartfelt and filled with intense emotion. The audience immediately reacted with loud cheers that filled the venue and lifted the atmosphere. What could have been seen as a moment of vulnerability turned into a display of strength for Elvis. He did not speak out of fear, but with determination. He made it clear that he wouldn't tolerate any trouble at his show again. Those who showed respect were invited, but those looking for a fight would be met with someone who wouldn't retreat. This wasn't just empty talk. It was the unwavering confidence of someone who had faced danger and stood their ground. The noise of excitement increased, resonating through the building. Fans clapped enthusiastically, causing their hands to hurt. The sound was not just clapping. It represented a strong connection between the king and his devoted followers. It was a way of showing appreciation for his bravery and determination to ensure the night was not spoiled. After that, there was a noticeable change in the atmosphere. The concert no longer felt like just a regular performance. It had become a moment that everyone in the audience would remember. Elvis not only looked out for himself, but he also stood up for the essence of the show. He proved that he would support his fans just as much as they supported him. When the music started playing again, the room felt more energized. Each musical note sounded more powerful, and every beat was more distinct. The crowd sang with more emotion, creating a chorus that showed their support. They all felt a strong sense of unity as any previous tension disappeared. Elvis sang with passion and determination all night long. It was as if he was taking back control of the stage from any disruptions. The audience was just as energetic, joining in by clapping, singing, and cheering until the show ended. The last song showed that the night turned out to be much more than anticipated. It was not just about the music anymore, but also about the strength, dedication, and strong connection between the artist and his fans. Instead of ruining the evening, the attack made it a memorable moment. After Elvis finished his performance, the audience cheered for him with overwhelming love and admiration. His ability to remain steadfast, even when faced with unexpected challenges, demonstrated that he was not just considered the king based on his voice or style. That evening, the audience at the concert experienced more than just a performance. They saw a man passionately defending his love for music and preserving the bond that united them all. Even after the show ended and the crowd dispersed, the memory of that night lingered with them, reminding them of the powerful moment when Elvis not only sang, but also stood confidently, strong and fearless. Storm behind the curtain. After the performance, there was a lot of tension backstage. The excitement of being under the bright lights and hearing the applause had disappeared. replaced by the sound of people talking quickly and footsteps moving around. Elvis, who is normally calm and collected, seemed out of sorts. He had a look of pure frustration on his face, and he couldn't sit still. He walked back and forth in the room, squeezing and releasing his hands as he kept thinking about what had happened on stage. The surprise attack caught him off guard. He was fully engaged in his performance when suddenly chaos erupted. The suddenness of the attack deeply affected him. It was more than just a disturbance, it felt like a personal affront. The way it happened, the timing, the intensity, it all shook him up more than he cared to acknowledge. As he walked backstage, he felt a rush of energy. He whispered to himself, trying to collect his thoughts that were racing. The unexpected event made him feel uneasy and wary. He couldn't shake the feeling that it was intentional and not a coincidence by strangers. Friends and bodyguards stayed close by, speaking to him calmly and encouraging him to take deep breaths and think logically. However, Elvis was overwhelmed with racing thoughts. He started to analyze and make connections that may not have been there before. The name Mike Stone was constantly on his mind. The past few months have been difficult for Elvis. His divorce from Priscilla made him feel hurt and betrayed. He couldn't stop thinking about Priscilla's new partner, Mike Stone, who seemed like a threat to him. Elvis couldn't shake the feeling that Stone was somehow involved in the attack against him. He imagined different scenarios where Stone could have had a motive to harm him. Elvis's mind created elaborate stories where this attack was part of a larger plan to scare or hurt him. As he thought about it more, his anger continued to increase. It wasn't just about being interrupted while performing on stage, but also feeling unsafe in a place where he should have felt secure. The idea that someone familiar with his routines could have people come after him caused his heart to beat faster. It was a troubling combination of wounded pride and fear. However, as time passed, he started hearing other opinions that helped calm his racing thoughts. His friends put in a lot of effort to support him and help him focus on more positive thoughts. They talked to him firmly yet kindly, advising him to pay attention to evidence rather than just emotions. Gradually, his perspective began to shift. The police reported their findings promptly. Those behind the incident were already in jail. They were not hired or enemies, but rather enthusiastic fans who went too far. Fueled by alcohol and excitement, they went from admiration to recklessness. There was no evidence of a larger scheme. Knowing this information helped Elvis calm down. He started to relax his shoulders and walk less frantically. Although it was difficult to fully let go of his suspicions because the shock and fear were real, the anger began to diminish. He realized that reacting hastily could have led to regrets later on. However, the event still had an impact. It served as a reminder that being famous carries dangers, and even in the public eye, there is potential for harm. As a result of this incident, Elvis chose to increase his caution. Security protocols around him were heightened, and his team was much more vigilant when interacting with the crowd. He faced chaos but never missed a beat. The stage was full of energy from the live performance. There were bright lights illuminating every part, and the excitement in the air was palpable. The TCB band, which was Elvis Presley's longtime and skilled group, played with their usual expertise. They had been by his side during many performances, whether they were easy or challenging. However, this particular night was special. Suddenly, chaos erupted without any warning. A fight broke out on the stage during a musical performance, disrupting the harmony of the event. The contrast between the violence and the art was striking. Despite the disturbance, the TCB band continued to play flawlessly. Their performance was not affected by the chaos unfolding around them. They continued to play without stopping or appearing lost. They demonstrated their professionalism by understanding the show business rhythm instinctively. To them, playing music was more than just hitting the right notes. It was a commitment to the audience and a tribute to Elvis. Despite the tension unfolding nearby, their music remained steady, creating an eerie and surreal atmosphere. While one side of the stage was full of fast-paced movement and danger, the music played on as if holding everything together. The musicians were not just dedicated, they believed strongly in always putting on a show no matter what. The night was significant beyond just one chaotic moment. A few days before, Elvis met Muhammad Ali in Las Vegas. The meeting of these two legends felt like a rare and special event. Ali was the undefeated champion of boxing, exuding charisma and confidence. Elvis, the king of rock and roll, had a different kind of mastery. When they first met, the handshake between the two famous men was more than just a greeting. It represented a mutual respect. Elvis recognized and understood Ali's spirit and strength, as he possessed similar qualities himself. Being successful in either boxing or in music mandated more than just talent. It also mandated the ability to endure, be resilient, and persevere through any challenges that came your way. Elvis gave Ali a special robe as a gift to show his admiration. Ali's energy and presence made a lasting impression on Elvis, reminding him of the courage it takes to face the world. This memory might have helped Elvis stay composed and strong on stage when facing difficulties. He was used to facing trouble. Elvis was accustomed to receiving threats. His popularity brought both positive and negative attention. Throughout his career, he had been in dangerous situations, especially during his shows in Las Vegas. He frequently received death threats, which were unfortunately common. Security measures were always strict, and he learned to be cautious at all times. Living under pressure helps you become prepared and alert. You learn to recognize when something is not right and respond quickly when necessary. Elvis demonstrated this skill on a particular night by reacting swiftly based on his experience and preparedness. His behavior during those intense moments showed that being a performer is not just about the music, but also about dealing with the mix of admiration and danger. Elvis had to ensure the safety of himself, his band, and the large crowds that attended his shows. The assault could have made anyone anxious. It could have ruined the atmosphere completely. However, Elvis remained calm. His quick actions, honed from years of karate practice, helped him manage the situation. He refused to succumb to fear. He did not allow confusion to prevail. While the band continued to play and the lights remained bright, the audience, although feeling unsettled, observed a man who remained determined. This was the Elvis they had come to witness. Not only the singer with a powerful voice, not just the performer who could excite the crowd, but the man who exuded strength in every part of who he was. This event went beyond just being a weird memory from a concert. It became another part of his legacy. It was a moment that would be talked about for years to come, not as rumors, but as evidence of his strong determination. That evening served as a reminder that his talent extended beyond his music to how he handled unexpected challenges. He wasn't just a musician, but someone who recognized the importance of his impact on others. Despite facing difficulties, he still managed to bring joy to his fans who had come seeking happiness. That night, the TCB Band's flawless performance showed their ability to endure tough situations, much like the performer. What do you think about Elvis Presley? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more celebrity gist. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.